Rev up your engine. Today I'm going to show you why it's a big deal, why you should know what transmission is in your car. The transmission, of course, transmits power from the engine to the wheels. If the transmission doesn't work, you won't go anywhere. And I'm going to use this 2013 Mazda 3 as an example. This year, you could have gotten 5 different transmissions in the same model. You can't tell by looking, they all say Mazda 3 on them, and they all look the same on the outside. But they're all very different transmissions, and unfortunately this one has the worst of them all. Because under the hood here, hiding down there, is a Ford/Mazda 5-speed automatic transmission, which is now slipping as you drive down the road. But in this 2013 Mazda 3, you could have gotten a 4-speed Ford automatic transmission that really does not have that many problems. Or even better, you could have got the 6-speed Aisin Toyota automatic transmission, which is a fantastic transmission. Or you could have gotten 2 standard transmissions, neither of which have any problems. It was the unlucky owner of this car who unknowingly bought it with the Ford designed 5-speed automatic that has history of problems. And you can't even trust half the dealerships these days. I called one up to see what kind of transmission was in it, and the guy at the dealer, I gave him the VIN number, he said it was a CVT transmission. It is not. This is why I kind of laugh when people say, oh Scotty, you say these Mazda cars or whatever cars are horrible cars, but I own this one and it's been a great car. Well, that's because there are so many different modifications on different cars and different models. You have to understand what they are if you want to buy one and get a good one and not one with a slipping transmission. Now this is a 2nd generation Mazda 3. Right after this model in mid-year, they went to the 3rd generation, and now they're on the 4th generation. And as far as I'm concerned, the 4th generations are the best because Toyota and Mazda have a good relationship going now, where they're actually made the Mazda quality go up even better. As you can tell, this one was made when Ford and Mazda still had a relationship, because the transmission is a Ford design. It's called Ford/Mazda, and they had a lot of problems with these things. With the Aisin Toyota ones, no, they don't have problems. And with the standard transmissions, again, they don't have problems. Yeah, with the standard, you gotta buy a clutch every once in a while that wears out, but this particular one, just the transmission itself is $3,600. That doesn't include labor, and considering this whole car was purchased for $3,000, it would not be a wise move to put a new transmission in. Now, since this is basically a Ford transmission, sometimes this Lucas slip stop can stop them from slipping. Just drain out a quart of fluid and put a quart of this stuff in. Then drive it about 250 miles and do a lot of praying, hopefully that it will stop slipping. Now, of course, if it's low on fluid, it can slip too, but I already checked that. It's full of fluid. Now, overall, Mazda makes pretty good engines. They always had. It's been their transmissions that they had problems in, and if you would have known that you could get a Toyota transmission in one of these, it would have been a wise move. But if you're like most Americans who have no idea what kind of transmission is in their car, maybe it's time to get a little bit educated and learn before you buy, so you don't get stuck with one that's got a slipping transmission. Because things like bumpers that aren't on right, this one's got a screw holding it in here, that's got a big gap, those things can be easily fixed. But a transmission, that's another story entirely. I can understand why people buy these Mazdas. They're cute and sporty inside for an economy price car. They start right up, and it idles perfectly fine and smooth for a 4-cylinder car. But when that transmission starts slipping, it kind of sours the whole deal. You can have a great engine, but if the transmission can't take that power, your car's basically not something you're going to be driving all that much longer. And that's pretty much a shame on a car that for $3,000 otherwise goes pretty good and is fun to drive. But in this particular one, I found something out. When I put it in the manual and I'm manually shifting the gears, watch this. Here we go. There no longer is any slippage. But alas, I just heard a clunk, so there is internal problems in this transmission. And now it won't even let me activate the gears even in manual. I can't turn it up and down. So it definitely has a transmission problem, and that's that Ford design 5-speed that's notorious for having problems. You'd never see this with the Toyota Aisin design transmission. So now you know, it is a big deal what transmission your car has and why you should know which one yours has, whether you're buying a new one or a used one, because it could be a great deal or it could be a horrible one. Do some research before you buy. And here's some bonus questions and answers. Chevy Silverado took over second place in pickup trucks sold in the United States, and Ram goes down a notch. Now, interestingly enough, in 2019, Ram took over second place, and Silverado was third place. But now, Ram's gone down, Silverado's gone up. Well, I guess for a short period of time, the Fiat Chrysler, which of course makes the Rams, and they were Dodge Rams, and they decided, well, Dodge has got a bad name. We'll just call it Rams and make it its own, in quote, brand. They didn't change anything. They just changed the name, and what's in the name anyways? I guess it worked for a while, but now people are realizing, hey, it's still a Fiat Chrysler product, has a lot of problems. Now, there were sales of a lot of trucks during the coronavirus because a lot of people, hey, they wanted a truck to do stuff. Their sales were still going really high. Regular car sales were down a bunch, but trucks were actually up. Now, GM beat Ram by 27%. That's quite a large margin. There's no arguing that. All I have to say is Fiat Chrysler, now they're merging with Peugeot, the French company. Bad enough that you had Italian engineering going into these trucks, and they're using a lot of these Italian diesel engines that have had a lot of problems. Now they're going to put the French into the mix, who aren't exactly known as making high-quality vehicles to begin with. You basically got Fiat, Chrysler, and Peugeot mixed together. You got three companies that have had problems forever, all merged together. And you know, they say, what, two wrongs don't make a right? What the heck do three wrongs make? Stellantis, Stellaris, whatever they decided to call their stupid name of the company that they're going to make them. They got name on top of name on top of name, but it's still the same companies. I was just talking to a neighbor here the other day, and he's a professional fisherman, and he was going up the Detroit River, going to lakes or fishing championships, and he saw all these Jeeps that were parked by the sides of these rivers. And he said, what the heck is that? And they said, well, those are the ones they couldn't sell them. They just parked them and left them there because they couldn't sell them. So, you know, contrary to the myth of their advertising, how great things are, talk to people who see the real world and they'll tell you what's going on. And in the real world, a name doesn't mean anything. It's what it stands for. And does it actually work? That's what shows up. And all these mergers and name changing, to me, they're just shuffling the deck. That's all they're doing. They're not changing anything. Karam says, here's why not to listen to J.D. Power Reliability. Here's some of their most reliable cars in 2020. Volkswagen Tiguan, Audi Q3, Chevy Sonic, Chevy Equinox, BMW X3. I can't believe it. Well, I believe it. I mean, I believe they're not the most reliable, but I can believe that J.D. Power should say it. After all, it's a PR firm. It's a public relations firm. Basically an advertising company. What, you know? Anybody that believes that stuff is crazy. I have had customers who have personally been interviewed. They buy a car. They're interviewed by these companies that supposedly do surveys and say what's reliable. And one of them had a BMW, and they started to say, that's the worst car I ever had. And all they heard was click. The phone hung up. Because obviously they were told, only give positive response from people. Don't give the negative ones, because we're told we want to make this a reliable vehicle. Because we're getting paid for it. So don't believe any of that stuff, you know. You can't even believe half the journalists, because they travel around the world on the dollar of the companies that make the cars to test them out in Monte Carlo and, you know, Buenos Aires and holidays. You can't believe what those guys are saying either. Believe me, I'm sitting right here in Tennessee telling you the truth. I have no ulterior motive other than helping people out. None of the companies are paying me to say things. I just tell as I see it from working on them for 53 years. Don't listen to any of those companies whatsoever. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.